All right, anytime that you see a passage that has very long answer choices, it's probably going to be kind of hard, at least just because there's a lot to sort through. So this is where the strong word strategy is really important, is I know that most of the words in those answer choices are not going to matter. They're just there to kind of structure the thing and remind me of what I'm talking about, whatever this ESG thing is. So there's going to be other words that need to stand out from those choices. Those words, the strong words, are the ones that everything is going to hinge on. So hopefully, as we read the passage and the choices, we can kind of notice certain words that pop out. That's really what strong words is about. You want to train your brain to notice the right stuff as you read, so that you're also just not overwhelmed with all the details. So let's see what we get. Some financial theorists have posited that the expansion of environmental, social, and governance investment strategies among institutional investors reflects a latent shift in capital markets, as political preferences for socially responsible corporate behavior have begun to manifest efficiencies that have in turn increased profitability. It's a crazy sentence, but I understand this part, increased profitability. So the ESG, some shift happened, and it's increased profitability? Maybe. Let's see. Let's keep going. Analysis by these people provides a counterpoint. Oh, big, strong word right there. Counterpoint. Remember, the most important word in any passage is the word but. There's not a but right there, but counterpoint is a fancy but. That's all it is. So counterpoint means you're arguing against something. So this person provides a counterpoint to this interpretation by demonstrating that ESG-aligned portfolios often exhibit comparable or marginally lower risk-adjusted returns, relative to conventional investments. So in a dumb summary kind of way so far, this was saying they're good, this is saying they're bad, or at least not as good as it seems. This, therefore, could create a potential structural misalignment in fiduciary standards because institutional investors operating under strict fiduciary requirements face regulatory ambiguity, oh my God, regarding whether ESG considerations constitute prudent investment criteria when they potentially compromise financial performance. That's a tough sentence, but if I pick a word out of that kind of, matched for me, is there's some sort of misalignment, right? So let's keep going. With these findings in mind, the trend toward greater ESG investment strategies suggests that. Okay. So I don't have a good prediction for this blank right now. I might need to do a little bit of kind of like understanding of what's going on. Again, this is kind of just saying ESG is good. Maybe if we want to get more specific about that, it increases profits. Oh, my pencil's being weird here. Increases profits. Then this other person is offering a counterpoint saying that ESG maybe is bad or not as good. And there's, it says lower returns, so lower profits. So they're definitely not in agreement there. Okay, so these findings in mind, the trend toward greater ESG investment strategies suggests that. So no matter what, right? So this is saying there's more ESG, this is saying there's more ESG, but there's less profit. So this is saying, or kind of asking, why is there more ESG? So I don't know. Maybe it's just people are stupid and they're doing something they shouldn't do. I don't know. I don't know where this is going, but let's see the choices and kind of thinking about other words we've already pulled out as being important. Let's see if we start to see similar words in the choices. So A, it suggests that ESG-aligned portfolios have demonstrated superior risk-adjusted returns. So superior returns, didn't we just say that they're not superior? So, okay. Compared to conventional investments, validating the financial case for institutional investors to increase their ESG allocations despite regulatory ambiguity. It's using lots of other weird words that I saw in the passage, but in a dumb summary kind of way, this seems to be saying that ESG is good. But I need to understand how this person's counterpoint is going to fit into this. It seems like lots of people think it's good, but this guy now has evidence that it's not. This choice seems to be going back to saying it's superior, right? It has superior returns. That was not what this other person found. So no, right? Like, why is there anything in this passage that tells me that this guy or a girl, Alexis Chakrabarty, is wrong and that they're flawed in whatever study they did? No. So I have to assume that it's got some validity to it and that they need to take it into consideration. So, man, I mean, that's a long answer choice. But notice that it really comes down to like them saying it's superior returns, and the passage says the opposite of that, or at least part of the passage says the opposite of that. So all those words in that choice, it's like two of them mattered, superior returns. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at B. Institutional investors with strict fiduciary requirements must, I don't love a must, divest from ESG-aligned portfolios as their underperformance constitutes a violation of prudent investment standards under current regulatory frameworks. I mean, this certainly has some negative connotations to it, but there's a lot of words that kind of stand out as very strong here. It doesn't mean they're wrong, but I need some evidence to really prove these things, right? They must divest. Divest means kind of get rid of. So they must get rid of their ESG portfolios as their underperformance constitutes a violation of prudent investment standards. I mean, they did talk about something about being misaligned and something is bad and ambiguous. I don't know. I at this point would say, you know what, this choice, it's just very, very strong, and it feels unlikely to be correct because of how forceful it's being in its kind of conclusion. And I might not understand it completely, but let's move on to C and D. If C and D are obviously wrong for other reasons, then fine, I'll pick B. But if C or D look good, then I'd probably just be like, well, D is too strong, and let's move on. Let's look at C though. Okay, it suggests that market participants are responding to factors beyond traditional return metrics, such as institutional conformity pressures and stakeholder expectations. So why is ESG going up? Because people are looking at factors beyond traditional return metrics. Return, they keep using that word here. Return is like how much money is returned to you after you've invested in this thing, right? What do you kind of profit? So if this Alexis person is saying that it actually leads to decreased profits, then we would need some sort of other factor to explain why ESG is going up. And this kind of gets to something that, matters, I think, for the passage is we're not saying ESG should go up, ESG shouldn't go up, it is going up. Some financial theorists have posited that the expansion of ESG reflects a latent shift in capital markets, blah, blah, blah. It's expanding. What we're trying to do is explain that expansion. So C is saying that the profitability is not the reason because, well, the Alexis is saying that, but they're basically going to then say there must be some other factor that is leading to this. Now, they give some specifics here, so I could check these out. Institutional conformity pressures and stakeholder expectations. So conformity is you're kind of copying everyone else. Expectations is like what they think is going to happen. So I don't know, is there anything in here that kind of supports that? Let's see, as political preferences for socially responsible corporate behavior begun to manifest efficiencies that have in turn increased profitability. So maybe their preferences are driving it, whether the profitability is or not. Reading on, kind of skimming here. It doesn't really say anything else. So again, I don't know that this is right. I like it though. It's being very vague. It's much weaker than choice B is because it's kind of not going into specifics about too much. It's saying there's factors beyond profitability that are determining things. We maybe have a little evidence in the passage that just what people's expectations and politics is affecting what they're investing in. So maybe let's look at the modifications to fiduciary standards that explicitly recognize ESG factors as legitimate would likely increase portfolio diversification, but may disincentivize further adoption of ESG investment strategies. Well, why are we modifying the standards, right? They're saying that the standards has a misalignment, so maybe that's why we're modifying them. It would increase portfolio diversification. When did we ever talk about diversification? That means like how many different things you invest in. I don't think we brought that up at all, right? So that's a strong word. That's kind of more of a noun, which is unusual, but I don't remember talking about that. But may disincentivize further adoption of ESG investment strategies. But isn't the whole point that people are investing in it and it's going up? So the problem seems to be this misalignment. So why, if we fixed the problem, would we disincentivize ESG, meaning make it less likely people want to do it? This seems to be just kind of going all over the place. This is a choice where like, I barely understand it. And that's kind of the reason I want to eliminate it is it seems to be talking about things that don't matter. And sometimes people feel that confusion. They're like, oh my God, I must not understand anything that I'm reading. But honestly, genuinely, sometimes an answer choice is so just random that it doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense with the passage. So you being confused isn't always a bad sign. At this point, I've been talking about this question a long time, but if this were the test, obviously I would be, I've done this in maybe more like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but I got to move on. I would pick C. That feels like the most reasonable answer. It's a little bit weaker. I feel like I can prove the different parts of it. And just generally speaking, the strong words in B scare me. Saying we must do something is really, really strong. And I would need some sort of evidence of that. And this is saying we're going to get rid of these ESG things. The whole point is we're trying to explain why people are investing in them. So we must get rid of them seems just like kind of a random point. So honestly, that one strong word must, maybe the word violation thrown in there, it's enough for me to place a smart bet on the other choice. And a lot of times that's what strong words allow me to do when I'm running out of time and there's a really hard passage that I don't really understand. What I think about is like, okay, this choice seems stronger. It seems to be making a bigger claim. These words scare me more. When we learn about trap answers, we'll see that there's certain words that jump out to me no matter what. And like, if I'm thinking about two answer choices, I'm always thinking which one is more likely to be right based on the rules of the SAT, the rules of strong words. Stronger choices tend to be wrong. Weaker choices tend to be right. C is weaker. It is right. So there you go. But it really just comes down to the fact that like, we can prove C. We're saying it's not about profitability. We're saying if it's not about profitability, it must be about something else. Why are people investing in this thing? If it's not making them money, there must be other factors. And these things that they list, they're a little bit more specific than what's in the passage, but they're reasonable. They're logical based on what we read. So it is provable, but it's a hard question. So let me know if you have questions. But I think the takeaway from this is you don't need to be sure of the answer to a question to get it right. As long as you're sure of the strategy and how strong words affect our odds, sometimes it does come down to placing a smart bet. And if you get good at it, your bets are going to be right most of the time.